Hi, today we're talking to Gal Rimon, the CEO and founder of Centrical. Let's hear the ideas and insights he has about 2025 and beyond. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, the company, and how you got to the position where you are today?
Started in one of the Israeli Army elite technology units, so very deep technical background, 6 years as an officer, managed multi-million-dollar projects. Then I focused for almost 20 years on the fields of BI, analytics, big data, companies like EDS, Deloitte, also CEO of a big data company. So I help hundreds of these banks, insurance companies, telecommunication, healthcare to understand better about their business, and I call it from strategy to execution, where the bottlenecks are. After selling the company that I was a CEO of, I realized, or I was very frustrated from the fact that spotting or identifying the bottlenecks is not enough. How to bridge the gap between strategy to execution. I realized that the bridge is actually the frontline employees. They're the bridge. They're taking strategy and instructions and goals and everything and bring it to the customers via sales processes and service processes. And on the other end, I realized that we did over the previous decade customer centricity, like we focus on the customer instead of optimizing the process, we optimize the customer experience. So what if we'll take the same approach, customer experience, customer centricity, to the frontline employee and create this type of employee centricity, put the employee at the center of business success, help them to have the best experience for them. And this was actually the aha moment or the origin of Centrical, which is putting the employee at the center.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's so interesting to see kind of your evolution of, looking first at the kind of the data and the process and thinking then about and kind of the epiphany of saying, the real center of this is the frontline employee. And a lot of organizations talk about the importance of frontline employees, but they don't always give as much support or as assistant as you would hope for those employees. So I think that's a really great place to be as far as an organization.
It's very important what you said, and I believe that many HR leaders, business leaders, they actually putting a lot of systems and technologies that supports their needs to create content, to publish, to monitor, to plan. And this is the original design of almost any LMS, performance management, even ticketing systems and every operational system. First, the employee is a record, okay? And you gather information about the employee. So there is a lot of data. But the question, who do you serve? You actually flip the pyramid. So you serve the employee. When you train the employee, it's not like serving the agile leader or the trainer or the content leader or the instructional designer, right? But actually to serve the employee where and when they need to learn.
Such an important point is that these systems oftentimes are not built by the people that need them. The input isn't even in there of asking the first line employees what they need or what they need to do. So the concept of putting the employee at the center, I think, is so, as you said, is so important, and it flips the pyramid and really, I think, makes a difference. What do you think were the most important aspects of leadership in this work environment?
I was talking in the last 6 months with dozens of leaders. Our customers are the largest banks and telecommunication and travel and hospitality companies in the world, and in others, BPOs and many other enterprise customers. And when you talk with HR leaders, COOs, head of sales, head of CX, you hear in the last year something different than what you heard before. right? In the beginning of the year and also last year, I heard a lot about cost optimization. And again, the world is trendy. They 3 years ago, it was everything. The employee is important, is an asset, and then suddenly cost is king, cash is king. But now, in last 12, 6 months, I start to hear something that I believe would be a long-term trend, and definitely it's part of AI and generative AI and this revolution. And leaders are trying to think and design what would be the future of work. And it needs, as a leader, you need to have a few qualities, I think. First, you need to learn very, very quickly and constantly, because once you are strong on budgeting and planning, on crafting things, on sales, and things didn't change too much between one year to the other. Maybe your strategy changed, but the profession is a leader, is a manager, is someone that knows how to plan, how to monitor execution, didn't change too much. And innovation was part of startups and the Amazon and Metas of the world. But if you're a leader in an enterprise, you had your profession. I believe that first their profession is already changed and will continue changing, and they will need to adapt to redesign of processes. So first, you need to keep learning.
Mhm.
Second, the distance or the speed or the agility between an opinion or insight or a decision to execution needs to be immediate. It needs to be in a way that you have an idea. Tomorrow you need to experiment that because something changed, and it would be in a period of a few weeks until everyone will talk about this change. And maybe you have the data or you identify a process and you need first to experiment. So we in the startup world really believe in the MVP. It's not like the most valuable player, but it's the minimal viable product. Like, what is the change if I take it to processes? What is the change that you need to do as quickly as possible that will provide some value, maybe not at scale, that can be validated, qualified and validated, and then you can say, okay, I made a mistake with my assumption. Maybe I change, maybe I kill this initiative, or it works. Now let's scale. And any leader that will not have this skill of creating an MVP and then kill or double down. I call it kill or double down, right? It works or not. If it works, great. Double down the following week or the following month. So I think let's segment this under agility, but it's something totally different. And the last thing is to link between technology and business. That's it. You can't rely on IT. You can't rely on the innovation teams. If you want to do that, you won't be relevant. If and the best thing is that I don't know what to tell my kids. Once I told them, "Hey, learn how to program. You will be the best, programmers." Today, I tell them, play music, join a band, be creative. So this is like another topic, right?
Right.
But
Yes.
definitely, I think that creativity and technology and linking business technology and creativity together, this is something very, very crucial to your success as a leader.
Mhm. Yeah, I think those are wonderful traits. I love you know, the, the point that you make about, the business part of it, accounting, budgeting, strategy, you can get that, but it's the learning about your industry. It's about quickly, creating the MVP as you talked about, and then doing all of that creatively. Quite a balance of skills. What problems did you see that's keeping these folks up at night that you're helping to solve?
Yeah, so I believe that they try to bridge between the current organization and the future organization. And it can give you an example from a few without mentioning the names, but a few organizations they realize that in specific functions of the business, they probably will need to replace, they have 10,000 employees in this, group, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And they might need to have 8,000 in 2 3 years or 7,000. And now the question is like how to design this process, because AI will keep eating the simple tasks, and gradually it would become more and more um, complex. Reasoning will start to kick in, and more organizations and more processes would be at least augmented by AI, if not replaced by AI.
Mhm.
And therefore, as a human, you need to start climbing all the time. If 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you competed against other people, right? Today you're competing against AI. I like what Scott Galloway said, Professor Galloway, that you're not competing against AI, but you're competing against a younger person that uses AI, right?
Mhm. Right.
Having said that, but long term, you will need to keep climbing some level of profession, and in a way we talk about reskilling and upskilling. Now, when you're a leader of a group of 10,000 people, you need to start segment them based on their ability to scale. Keep those people. I believe, by the way, that today they can be the majority of people.
Mhm.
Having said that, you need to identify them and to start investing in them differently in order for them to be ready for the next steps, and maybe even continuously being ready. So every year, you will need every year, every quarter, every 6 months, each one of them will need to have options. And I'm not talking about career pathing, because I think it's dead. Think it's dead. That's it. That, because people today, definitely the younger people, they are seeking for choice and flexibility. So your role as a leader needs to provide those choices when you can, guide them through those choices. But
Mhm.
I believe that the future of work, or designing people to be ready for the future of work, keeps the momentum and not creating role A. You finished role A, you do an onboarding or a skilling or a reskilling or upskilling to role B, and so on. But it needs to be, when you're in role A, you start experiencing tasks from role B. You learn trades and professions and proficiency and so on from role B and C and D, and you start sliding, and those definitions of dichotomy that starts and ends and so on. I think this belongs to the past, and it fits to the TikTok generation, right? They're no longer watching 55 minutes episode. My kid, when he can play guitar, playing the video game, and in Discord there is talking with another friend, playing another video game, and still doing his homework. And I'm in the room,
Wow. Yeah.
and I'm, one of the most, I think learners and up-to-date people on AI, and I look at him and say, wow, and he's like straight A's, it's straight A's. And I say, is this like the future of ADHD? Is it a feature? Is it a bug? I don't know, but I know one thing, that this is the future of every process. It needs to streamline over start and an end, and therefore on the job training, right? Everyone love on the job training. I think there is a new term, on the job upskilling.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense because as rapidly as things are changing, by the time you maybe get to role B, it may not even look the same. And if you're not,
Exactly. Yeah.
upskilling as you go along, you can't wait, then train for
You'll
a
be
job
dead
that,
on arrival.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, fascinating. And that we've all been through the pandemic and it's kind of in a rearview mirror, but um, I think what you're saying is this is accelerated maybe because of the pandemic, or is different because of the pandemic. Do you feel that that's part of it?
Yeah, I believe that the pandemic provided a layer, the first layer of flexibility, where we said, okay, we're dealing with talent over employees, and we need to trust the employees, and we need to put a lot of focus on the well-being. I believe that well-being would be a very important part of what you should provide as an employer and leader, but it needs to be combined. What's well-being? Well-being is also part of you feel successful, right? Balance, growing, learning, skilling, and so on. So again, everything is blended in this experience. So I do believe that the pandemic provided the infrastructure to the AI revolution from people perspective, not from technology perspective, to be ready to keep changing very rapidly. So the people and the companies that will survive this, it's like Darwinian, but on steroids, right?
Yes.
Because it will be in a single generation. Almost every change that we went through, including mobile, internet, uh, cloud, right, took
Mm,
10, 15 years.
yeah.
Here we're talking about the process, that started ChatGPT. I think first time that we started to use it was January 22, right? We're in January 25, if not 23, maybe 23 even. Yeah, January 23. It was like November 22, December, and we started to use like 2 years ago, and now everyone that doesn't is like a dinosaur, right?
Yeah.
So so pandemic and AI and maybe something new, which would be, I believe, connected to something around the AI and reasoning, the
Mhm.
ability of AI to explain itself, because today this is the ceiling of AI. It provides to you the answer, but still not the right reasoning.
Mhm.
And therefore, when people talks about simple tasks, it's nice, but if agents, multi-agents, and agentic AI and so on will start talking with each other and start training each other, it will go, and I believe it will go to places that we don't expect. There are also dangers,
Mhm.
both from security, safety, psychology, and again, look what's happening in the social media with X and TikTok, right? It's
Right. Yeah.
horrible. I think it's super dangerous. And we as leaders need to, on one hand, to harness the progression and the advance, and the future. On the other hand, we need to protect our people, our companies, our families sometimes. And then again, a leader needs to balance, I think, those two approaches: how to be responsible on one hand, on the other hand, if you will say this is like, yeah, I need faster courage and horse, right? You won't be relevant in
Right.
this world. But you need to think about the roads, traffic, traffic lights, and how to organize a turnabout and things like that.
Yeah,
And we're
it's
not ready. We're not ready yet.
we're not, no. And to your point, this is such a fast evolution. Being in academia, we're trying to figure out, well, how does AI fit into a curriculum, right? Where students can, you know, put in a couple prompts and have an essay. What does that mean? But from a corporate perspective, you're so right in about the forces pushing uh, some of these unknown technologies, untested in some areas, to the forefront. And then, to your point, it wasn't that long ago when a group of scientists wrote a letter and said, "Hey, we need to slow down AI." And then, like, I don't know, a few months later, it was ripped up, and they're like, "No, we need to put the accelerator on AI." And you're right, leaders in all kinds of organizations have to balance that need for innovation and to gain a competitive advantage with the need to protect their data, the client's data, and as you said, all the way down to sometimes the families. So it's a really kind of leaders are under all kinds of stress and strain to make those kind of things happen. So,
Yeah.
oh, do you want to comment on that or?
Yeah, I'm thinking about Oppenheimer and nuclear bombs, and
Yeah.
on the other end, Meta wants to build a nuclear reactor, and in order to feed the AI machines. And I have two movies that I really like: Terminator,
Uh-huh.
definitely two, but in Skynet,
Yeah.
and I think that the movie that was for me the horror movie of sci-fi, and you will never guess which one is it. It's Wally. You remember Wally?
Yes, that
The
does
cute
not
robot,
rank
right?
on my list of horror movies, Wally.
And the reason why it's horror movie, because humanity is irrelevant, became
Ah,
irrelevant. Everyone floating and eating grapes, and
yeah.
basically they're redundant. So
Oh,
this is
interesting.
the true dystopia, even worse than fighting machines.
Hmm.
So I think that responsibility in developing and evolving in AI is something that I hope that the few leaders will take. We see it more in Europe, and maybe start to see it in some places in the US, but in Europe they always try to put things in a more, let's call it, supervised way, over like GDPR, cloud
Yeah.
privacy, and things like that. And therefore I think that AI and definitely we, as, let's call it, educators, right, people that think about education of people, and also what is profession today. If you can ask anything, why should you learn if you can put your blood test and you'll get the next best medication? So why do you need to learn 7 years as a doctor and practice, and so big questions
Big
on
question.
that. But I still believe that learning is super important, because it's a fundamental skill that will make you be relevant, because you don't know what will happen in 2 years,
Hmm.
but you'll figure this out if you'll be a learner, if you will be adaptive, and these characteristics needs to be developed by us, whether we're talking about education for K-12 or our kids, or also our employees and managers and leaders in organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the skills is, and you had mentioned it earlier, is as a CEO, you always have to learn. Almost everybody, though, has to
Yeah.
learn how to learn and do it efficiently and effectively. I think Darwin said, it's not the fittest that survive, it's those who are most adaptive to change. And those are
Right.
people that learn and react. And that's really, I think, an important point, kind of underlying current of what you've been saying. And really, I think anyone viewing this has to think about, what's their strategy to learn how to learn and continue to learn. And then if we take that one level deeper in what Centrical and what you're doing, how do we talked about the workforce and individuals, and they need to upskill, but what do organizations do? They're facing these skill gaps. They're no longer having these learning pathways. They're have AI do a lot of stuff. So, what strategies do companies need to focus on to upskill their workforce?
Yes. So I'm trying to use visual for the vision, right? Think
Uh,
of a guardian angel sitting on your left shoulder, right? And this guardian angel will whisper in your ear what do you need to learn, and what do you need to do in order to focus on the right things, and connect you also to other people, right? And help you in this navigation in a hectic world. I can give an example. So let's look at Jane. And she's a salesperson in the organization. So I would like that this guardian angel will analyze all the data around her. Will say, hey, you have a challenge with conversion rate. Say, okay, I'll focus on conversion rate. What should I do? Say, okay, I looked at or analyzed your conversations and saw that you didn't ask enough discovery questions, probing questions. Okay, great. So also we'll have an interaction with Jane and say, hey, how many discovery questions should you ask in every conversation to raise her attention, to create this type of focus? And then you know the AI, right, will understand that this is an engagement gap, understanding gap, skills, right, or experience. And in this case, it identified that this is a skill gap, asking more and better questions. So we'll start training with role play simulation on how to ask better questions, which type of questions, and put her also in a campaign, like a promotion campaign, gamification. We didn't talk about gamification today, right?
right.
So, hey, if you double the number of questions and it would be good questions, those would be great questions, something will happen. We will recognize and promote your success, and everyone will know. And then we start creating, or closing this first feedback loop. And then we call also Jane's manager and tell her, hey, we help Jane in probing questions, but we still think that she can improve. And the manager will say, okay, Jane, talk with Phoebe. Phoebe, she's amazing on that. Have a couple of discovery shadow calls with Phoebe, right? And by the way, great work on asking more questions this week. So here we closed a single feedback loop for Jane for this week. Next week, a different, maybe, it would be objection handling, it would be something else. But for Jane, it's personal. It's something that she understands that has a direct connection to her compensation, more sales, better conversion, asking better questions. I learn, I improve my skill, rewards, recognition, I'm successful, right? But zoom out, 10,000 people, 10,000 different challenges, 10,000 different success journeys. And this is exactly what we would like to achieve in every organization, like high resolution to the segment of one. Every individual will have this guardian angel that will help them to succeed. So short term, she will sell more. long term, maybe she will go to from like selling loans to loan collection to credit cards to a junior management and so on. And this is a process that your companion, AI assist, AI companion, will help you to be successful, to be growing all the time, developing all the time, and also being ready for the future. And this is win. And then you sell more. So this is the win-win with the company. Makes more money. Everyone here would like to make more money. And by the way, also to save money. So if you'll not be good, you'll be replaced by a younger person or an agent, an AI agent. So we need to evolve all the time. So this is both the vision, and I'm talking about like things that we already do with the biggest companies in the world.
Mhm.
And this is something beautiful because we harnessed AI to help people to be ready to the world of AI.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And I love the idea of uh, I almost like a micro skilling, right? So you have this
Yes.
one task that you need to do and you want to get better at it. And once you get better at a task, you feel more confident. You feel that you can take on bigger tasks. To your point about progression, then in your profession, I think it's wonderful. And I always think back to old training, like hey, we're not selling enough. We need closing. So everybody has to come into the room. In the old days, and you teach everybody how to close. The really good salesperson is totally annoyed because they already know how to close. The not so good salesperson gets a little bit of information but not enough. And when we went to online learning, initially the industry made the same mistake.
And think of by the way, BC before Centrical, there were silos, right? So we didn't invent microlearning, right? There was microlearning. Actually, I thought that I invented microlearning, but then I discovered that it exists, right? But
Right.
but the nice thing is that we realized that there are silos. That again, training, learning, HR are very focused on the skills and what to learn, how to learn, do you know things, and then with micro learning, we created easier, faster, more relevant. But there was still a gap, right, between those two silos of did you sell the iPhone 16? Okay, how many happy customers do you have? Why they're not happy, and so on. And what we did at Centrical was to bridge between the world of performance and business and execution and the world of learning and skills and professions. With AI, what we start to do is like from before that it was segment to, I call it segment to segment, right? So we had 10, 20, 60, 100 segments, and then playbooks, right, based on skill gaps and so on. With generative AI, it's much easier to create this fit because I have this segmentation up to the granular level of the individual, right?
Mhm.
We have the playbooks and all the learning experiences and all the actionable world that you do something, and the something is not directly impacting the results, the key or the KPI, right? Usually KPIs are a result of. It's like
Right.
driving with the rear view mirrors, while the behaviors, asking more questions, better questions, and the skills, learn which type of questions and how to ask the questions, and then you create this streamline between performance, results, execution, impact, behaviors, and skills. And for you as an individual, you see it, right? It's like when I was playing volleyball, right? Or even when I was a coach at volleyball, I could tell you, hey, Karl, 3 times strike the ball. after 3 times, that's it. I can tell you, like you're getting too fast, too slow. This is the practice that you need to have. And today, this virtual coach and also the augmented AI assist to the manager that should become a coach, this is the most significant thing, that AI provide to us the ability to do that at the segment of one. Before that, it was like you should see the admin of Centrical before it was like
Mhm.
hundreds of rules, and you start to lose, you know, uh,
Right.
what should they do? And now it starts to be more realistic to create this segment of one.
Yeah, no, I
So it's
think
an exciting
it is.
era to be a product leader, and also to work with customers that work at scale, because 100 people, I know everything about them. 10,000 people, I don't know where do they live, which languages, what's their background, and so on. Again, a leader needs to learn, take risks, fail and succeed.
Mhm. Oh, fantastic. Great words of wisdom, great words of advice, Gal. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed talking to you today.
Thank you, a pleasure.